And then you'll send it out to me too, right?
Right.
Okay. Even me, you'll send it to, right?
I will.
Okay, good.
Again, thank you for being here, Lisa Ryan.
are.
We're lucky to have her here. She is an author in 11 books, I think she just mentioned, which is fantastic. She's a nationally acclaimed speaker. Her new book is called Thank You Very Much. And we'll certainly send something out to everybody. There it is. We'll send something out to everybody so they can see it. So we're lucky to have her do a thing here on, let me say it right,
Grategy.
Grategy. Thank you. Easy for me to say. And so really looking forward to hearing all about it. So Lisa, jump in.
All right. Well, it's been a weird last couple of years. So the program on gratitude strategies is really about finding the good, no matter what is going on in your life. And then we're going to take a look at it from the aspect of the self, first of all, how it changes your perspective. We'll take a look at the health benefits because there's tons of research and things that go along with that. The O, I call it my show talk because that's my acronym, is relationship with others. And then finally with the W is where we're going to bring it into the workplace. And that is the correct order, because a lot of times when it comes to employee engagement and retention, people are looking at it as a check mark, where when you can find the good in your own life first, it makes it a lot easier to find it in others. So like with all my programs, I like to start with a question. And that is, do you suffer from way too much appreciation? You know, I mean, people coming up to you saying, oh, thank you so much. I so appreciate what you do. You totally rock. Yeah, unfortunately, when I'm doing these live, you know, that last one with you rock, yeah, we don't hear it as much as we would want to or we need to. And a lot of that has to come from where we are so focused on the negative, and especially going back into the last couple of years where that's been happening. So a lot of times when I ask that question in my live programs, it's like, this is the kind of face that I get, because people are like, what do you mean suffering from way too much appreciation? I wish I had a little bit of it. So when what we're really looking for is that human connection. And a lot of times people say, you know, Lisa, anytime I am suffering from anything, I do what the rest of America does. And, you know, and I go to WebMD or I Google my symptoms to see what's causing it. So that doesn't necessarily work with a foundation of gratitude, but let's take a look at some of the symptoms. There are 8 primary symptoms. And whether you have one or several or all of them that you're going through right now, by the end of the program, you'll have some ideas and strategies to get you through. So the first one is, you know, are you just kind of sad, not with it, not experiencing the joy of life? I mean, really, all you have to do is turn on the news and you get all kinds of frowny faces going on there. And maybe there is that confusion, because you're getting so much thrown at you all the time and you don't know which direction to go. Or, you know, maybe you have a lot of toxic people around you who are dragging you down. The thing with that is that we can all make decisions as far as who we hang around with, but looking for changing those types of relationships. You know, maybe it's the negative thoughts in your own mind where it's just difficult to get there. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to be all the time happy, happy, joy, joy, you know, to put a smile on your face and pretend everything's good, because sometimes it's not. But what we want to do is look at some practices that can encourage us to find the good, really, no matter what is going on. You know, there's that level of frustration. And again, we're trying to get so much done in so little time. And right now with so many resources between supply chain and everything else that's going on right now, that can make it frustrating. Or we don't feel like we're making our goals. We're feeling that point of despair. And I know that when we look at the mental health issues that have been going on for the past couple of years with the isolation, with the people being at home in unsafe environments, of just that overwhelm of despair. And then it makes it hard for us to sleep at night. So if you look at all of those symptoms, the good news is that gratitude can help literally with all of them. And this is not this fluffy, ethereal, spiritual program that we're in. This is research-based, that when you just look for ways to change your habits, to bring in some things, and maybe it feels forced at the beginning, but the more and more you're doing these things, the better off that it will work. So how do we make that new reality? And again, it's little practices that can help, because when you think about it, what if you had some practice, some really easy things that you can do, takes fewer than 5 minutes a day, gives you some opportunities to connect with your loved ones and to get them involved in the process. These are the things that can lead us to more health, more wealth, more happiness. Because again, the last couple of years have been ones that in 100 years, they're going to be talking about, just like we were talking about the 1918 epidemic that came through, between supply chain issues and employee absenteeism and everything else that we have going on. Again, it can be really easy to get kind of caught up in all of this. And, between everything that's going on the last couple of years, it has been, but there's one that actually is not going away. And I know that Bill already reminded me of this when I first logged in. So if you're doing any type of virtual programs, of course, we're going to be dealing with this one for a long time. And there's a disconnect. We're looking for ways to find our way back so that we can have that basic human connection again. And it starts with you being able to find the good. It comes down to 2 words. And these 2 words, of course, are gratitude and strategy, or as I like to call them, your Grategy, which actually is the only word that I own. So when it comes to, just in case you're wondering a little bit about my background, I'm actually born and raised Cleveland, Ohio. I have never lived outside of Cuyahoga County, completely by choice. Actually, my husband has lived in both Cuyahoga and Summit County. So for those of you not familiar, that is Cleveland and Akron. So obviously a man of the world. But I started my career as an executive recruiter, one of the few people on the planet who can actually say they sold their mother. Yeah. Mom hated the job that I placed her in, but I was like, Mother, you have got to stay there at least 90 days because I have a guarantee and I can't afford to give back the commission I made on you. So thankfully, Mom was there for 2.5 years. From there, I went into industrial sales, where I sold electrical cord and cable into the maintenance environment. And I also spent 7 years in the welding industry. And yes, I do weld. And from there, I spent the last 7 years of my career in healthcare. But what changed everything? And that question comes up all the time, why the focus on gratitude? Well, it actually started with a fire walk. And believe it or not, except for the back and forth going on, that's really what it looks like. It is a 12-foot bed of red hot burning embers. So to answer your first couple questions on that, no, I did not get burned. And no, I really have no idea why I didn't get burned. Because the first fire walk was it was really important, because when you walk on fire, you're like, I can do anything. But the second fire walk is the one that made all the difference. I had done my first one in 1989, just so you know. There was 2 of them involved, didn't get burned either. But the second one was really the one that changed everything, because as my friends and I were driving home from Chicago, we were really excited, but we also knew that unless we took action, everything that we had gone through those last 4 days would have been right out the window. And we didn't want that to happen, again. So we opened up a Facebook thread, and every day we shared with each other people we met, experiences that we had, things that we learned. And one of my friends said, well, why don't we write down 3 things that we're grateful for? Okay. Did that every day, held each other accountable. And that was the practice that literally changed everything. You know, I was in medical sales at the time, and customers I hadn't talked to for months were calling me, hey, can you come in and sell me some stuff? And I was like, yeah, I'll be right there. There were 2 large facilities that I'd been calling on for almost 5 years that closed effortlessly. I noticed the difference from my husband, who was becoming more verbally appreciative. So all of these things were changing, but the only thing that I had changed was that practice of gratitude. So that's where the research began. And I've read hundreds, if not thousands, of articles and papers and books and attended programs to see, is gratitude more than this feel-good emotion that we ascribe to it? And I found out that there was. One of the first books I read was called Thanks by Dr. Robert Emmons. Now, Dr. Emmons, that's Emmons, if you're note takers, he's at the University of California at Davis, and he took a random group of students, divided them into 3. He had the first group write down the things that they were grateful for. The second group, all the troubles, hassles, things that bugged them. And the third group simply recorded the day's events. So they were the control group. Well, after 10 weeks, the gratitude group was actually 25% happier. And you might be saying, Lisa, how do you know they were 25% happier? Well, when Dr. Emmons presented his findings, he did so in a pie chart. And you know that pie makes everybody happy. Okay, but no, for about 10 weeks before the survey, he had them writing down their headaches and stress levels and relationships so that he could basically see the chronically happy people from, let's call them the chronically crabby people. And he saw that 25% increase. The gratitude group exercised on average an hour and a half more per week than the other 2 groups. They complained less often. Wouldn't that be nice? They had fewer physical ailments. So if we look at the last year, when we've been, or last 2 years, where we've been so focused on our immune system and taking care of ourselves, knowing that having a regular practice of gratitude can help. The gratitude group was found to be more happy, joyful, enthusiastic. But then when Dr. Emmons interviewed people associated with the gratitude group to see if they noticed any difference, they did. They actually found that they were much more emotionally available. They were nicer to be around. So basically, I did my own research where I posted a question on social media. And the question was, how do you incorporate gratitude and appreciation into your business? Okay, simple question, right? How do you incorporate gratitude and appreciation into your business? So I was expecting the standard vanilla answer, and I got lots of answers. But the first one kind of threw me for a loop because it was written in all caps. So as I'm reading this, my brain is saying, you don't need to incorporate gratitude and appreciation into your business because people are just going to take advantage of you anyway. I was like, what do you do with that? Well, I texted her back, sent her a message like, well, I'm really sorry that you feel that way. She responded again, all caps, that's okay, big girl now, moving on. Like, okay. But because I'm a glutton for punishment and I wanted to hear the rest of the story, I messaged her one more time. I said, this might sound rather silly, but if you would take my 30-day gratitude challenge and for the next 30 days, simply write down 3 to 5 things that you're grateful for. And at the end of the month, let me know how it goes. Well, she responded in lowercase and said, thank you so much for being so positive. I'll do that right away. I'm like, who are you? And what did you do with that grouchy woman? So we stayed in touch. A month went by and I emailed her and I said, so how's things going? And she said, you know, it's kind of weird. She said, I haven't been feeling that much difference. But recently when I went on vacation, I was around some friends and family I hadn't seen for a while. They noticed the difference. And that is the difference right there. It's not like you're going to completely feel 100% different right off the bat, but there's a really good chance that other people will notice. You'll have a different energy about you. And that's a thing. So looking for just one thing that you can take away from here. Because when it comes down to it, Mother Teresa once said that we are more starved for appreciation than we are for bread. And this is very relevant in our personal lives, but even more so in the workplace. So as I promised you earlier, this is what I call my show talk. We look at the aspect of the self, how it changes your perspective, the health benefits, relationship with others, and then we take it into the workplace where our wealth is. So how exactly does gratitude change your perspective? Changing how you see the world differently. Well, there's 3 practices that we have that I like to talk about. And the first one is the gratitude journal. Now, I remember I was talking about the gratitude journal at one of my live programs, and a woman kind of got in my face and she's like, what do you mean journal? What am I supposed to give up? One more thing I'm supposed to add to my plate. And I'm like, I don't know, a minute of sleep. So this is not something that it's going to take lots of time, but waking up in the morning and before your feet hit the ground to take that long walk down the hallway of just writing down 3 things or 5 things. Like every morning, again, I reach under my bed, I pull out my gratitude journal, which is literally loose leaf paper in a binder. And I write down 5 statements starting with I am grateful for, and then follow it with some kind of detail. Because if every day I wrote down, I'm grateful for my husband, I'm grateful for my cats, I'm grateful for my house, well, it gets really boring really quickly. So if instead I say, I'm so grateful that Scott cooked a great dinner on the grill last night. I'm so grateful for binge watching Netflix with my cat Tinkerbell on my lap. So these are the things that we can do that bring us more into gratitude. And people will say, well, Lisa, do I really need to write it down? And here's the answer why it's yes, because when you're holding the pen in your hand, number one, you're feeling that pen. You're hearing the words as you're writing. You're seeing the words, and you're much more likely to feel that level of appreciation. The other thing that it does is now you have a record and you see the ups and downs as you go through life. Because, you know, I do this stuff and I talk about it for a living, for goodness sake. But there's some days where I wake up and I just don't have it, you know? So it's like, what can I be grateful for? Well, I live in Cleveland, Ohio. So when the sun is out, that's like a big deal. So there's lots of days where I just write, I'm grateful the sun's shining. I'm grateful that it's, you know, I have running water, flushing toilets, reliable transportation. So all of the little things that we take for granted. The second journaling activity can actually be done at night. I call it the wins journal, of looking back on the day and thinking about 5 good things that happened during the day. Now, frankly, I think that that one is the more difficult of the 2 journals to do, because if you have had a horrific day, you know, that to be able to get to that place of gratitude. But what the wins journal does is that it also shows that whatever happens, you can always be grateful about it. So it's those 2 journals, the wins journal at night, the gratitude journal in the morning. The thing I like about the gratitude journal is that you can be grateful in advance. For example, this morning, one of my gratitudes is I'm so grateful that I rocked the program this afternoon. So you set that positive expectation, because you think about it and you're like, if you wake up and you just say, oh, today is going to be a terrible day, you know, how's your day going to be? So we start off with that positive expectation. So the wins journal, also what I have to say about the evening is, if you are watching the nightly news before you go to bed, right before you go to bed, just stop. When bad things happen, people tell you. You do not have to put all of that negativity into your mind right before you go to sleep. It's just a really bad habit to get into. So, keeping yourself, again, because one of the other research studies with gratitude found that people who had a regular gratitude practice are awake less time before they fall asleep, they sleep more soundly, and they awaken more refreshed. So the moral of that story, count your blessings, not sheep. So the third practice that I really like, and I will tell you what, I use this one all the time. I call it the ABCs of gratitude. So maybe tonight when I'm doing my journals, I will, or when I'm trying to fall asleep, pick a random letter. So maybe tonight I'll start with B. I'm so grateful that, I connected with Bill. C, I'm grateful for my sister Christine. D, I'm grateful for Dan being on today. I can make it all the way through S's and be grateful for Stevie too. But the thing is that you have all of those voices that are trying to keep you awake at night, reminding you of all the things you didn't get done and all the things that you need to do. And they're really annoying voices. But when you do that in alphabetical order, you're actually giving them something to do. So with that, a lot of times what I find is that it's 5 or 6 letters before I'm sound asleep. Now, mind you, there are some nights that I go through the alphabet, twice, but most of the times it's 5 or 6 letters and you are, you're sound asleep, which is why I also no longer begin with A or B, because I wasn't making it through F or G. So I want you to we have a small group today, I'd like you to either come off mute or go ahead and put that in the chat. What is one thing that you are grateful for today? And for those of you listening to the recording, actually do this, say it out loud, write it down, do something, but what is one thing that you are grateful for? So I'm going to open it up to you guys.
Well, I am definitely grateful for your presentation because it's really a fantastic thing to think about. And it's just what you said about listening to the news before you go to bed. I'm a news junkie, so I'm going to stop doing that. That's one of the things I'm going to be grateful for, you giving me a heads up on that. So thanks.
Yeah. Oh, you're very welcome. Well, that in the news, if it bleeds, it leads, it's like, and if they're going to share like one little teeny tiny good story, they put it in the last 60 seconds of the newscast to kind of, draw you in with all the other negative stuff. So yeah, like I said, Bill, people will tell you when bad things happen. What about you, Stevie or Dan?
Dan?
Oh, you're on mute, Dan, if you're talking.
Dan?
Sorry.
See that whole button I had before?
I'm grateful I'm not on mute anymore. I've spent a lot of time in the last 2 days getting the runaround between my bank, my carrier, and Apple because I couldn't get a confirmation code. And I finally got it fixed. That's a long story, but I'm grateful I got it fixed. But it's kind of a negative thing that I ended up with a positive result. So I'm so glad that's over with. I literally spent about 3 or 4 hours on the phone. So I'm grateful that got taken care of.
Well, and look at what you just did. You could have been mad about it the entire day, how you gave up 3 or 4 hours of your life trying to get this stupid problem, and you could have whined and complained to everybody on the planet about it, or what you just did of sharing, what, I'm grateful that it's taken care of and I'm grateful it's over. That's what starts to change our perspective.
Yeah. At least I was able to be nice to the people that were helping me too.
Yes. Yeah, that's important, because the nicer that you are to them, the better they serve you in most cases.
We're grateful to yourself, right? For yourself.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
What about you, Stevie?
So actually, I was interested in this because I've been thinking this way lately. And the thing about not watching the news at night, I stopped that a while ago because it's just too distressing. But I'm grateful for a lot of things, actually. I'm grateful that I'm alive and well. My parents died in their mid-60s, and I've surpassed that age, so I'm grateful. I'm grateful for a marriage that's a real relationship. I'm grateful that I live in New York City. I'm grateful my children are people with good values and out in the world and doing their thing. And I've been thinking of this lately, and I appreciate, I'm also grateful for the suggestions of how this can be varied, you know, and
Yeah.
how to build on that.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things of, you know, in my 30-day challenge, I used to have an official challenge where there was like videos, a daily email and video and stuff. And the funniest thing happened as a result of that, that people after the 30 days, they would email me saying, I'm so sorry that the 30-day challenge is over. I really enjoyed doing it. I'm sitting there going, that was part of my evil plan, people, that you'd get into the habit of doing it and continue.
Yeah.
You know? But
Yeah.
that's, and there's 5 ways in this. I called it the Take 5 and Thrive Challenge, because there's 5 ways that we can express appreciation. We can write it down in a journal. So basically you write down 5 things you're done for the day. You can verbally thank people. And I try to catch people that are not used to being thanked. You know, the servers and the hotel, you know, cleaning crew and all the people who are just unseen of actually seeing them. The 3rd and 4th is the thank you note and the letter of appreciation. The difference in the world, according to Lisa Ryan, is the thank you note is thank you for something. Thank you for dinner. Thank you for the gift. Thank you for your time. The letter of appreciation is thank you because. These are the reasons I'm so appreciative that you're in my life. So, and the research that Dr. Emmons did with the letter of appreciation, it was like not only writing the letter that ups your endorphins, but handing it to the person also for 6 months still carries that feel good emotion. I mean, it's a really powerful practice. And then the 5th one is reflecting on gratitude for 5 minutes. So, you know, just looking for some way to work it into your daily life. And when you do that, and the other thing that I also say is to get a gratitude journal without dates on it, because I believe dates throw us off. Because if you're out of town, you're traveling, you miss a couple days, then you either think that you got to make stuff up and fill in the blanks, or you just put it aside and say, well, I failed. So with loose leaf paper and a binder, I can put my own dates in there. I also know that when I do get into, you know, traveling and I fall out of practice, life doesn't go as well. And I'm looking like, what happened? I'm like, oh, gratitude. Get back to gratitude. And I tell you, it all works out. So that was the self. Next, we're going to talk about health. And actually, I'm going to blow this up because I do really like this quote, because it's true. We spend the first part of our life using our health to get wealth, and then the second part using our wealth to get our health back. And especially these last 2 years, when we realize how precious our health really is. So there are 2 studies. These are done by the Institute of Heart Math, heart and math as one word. They're in California. But the first study, they took a look at anger and appreciation, or I'm sorry, frustration and appreciation and its impact on the heart. So what they did, they took a random group of people, you know, hooked them up to monitors, subjected them first of all to frustration, and then looked at their heart rate variability, which is the space between the heartbeats. And this is what, when it was the top chart is what your heart is doing when you are under frustration, when you're stressed out. Kind of looks like a lie detector test. The same group of people, when hooked up to monitors for the appreciation, gratitude, compassion, you can see what your heart is doing there. So it has these physical things. Then the second one, and this one I like even more, because this one they looked at anger and compassion and its impact on the immune system. And what they found, and this is probably a writer downer, is that for every 5 minutes you spend in anger, you actually reduce the effectiveness of your immune system for up to 6 hours. Those same 5 minutes spent in compassion actually elevate the performance of your immune system for those same 6 hours. So we look for ways to choose positive emotions. And one of the things that we can do that when we're in the stress response is to do something that we are doing all day long. And if we're not doing it, we are in deep, deep doo-doo. Because when we are stressed out, our breath is shallow. We're not getting that much needed oxygen to the brain. So simply the breath is one of your most powerful tools. And I have a couple different breathing practices, but this 4-7-8 is the one that I use most of the time, because all it is, you're breathing in for 4, hold for 7, and then release for 8. By doing that 5 times, you start to physically get yourself out of the stress response. There's another one, if you're into yoga, called box breathing, where it's basically 4, 4, 4, 4. You breathe in for 4, you hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. But anything that you can do to really fill up your lungs with the breath, and then you're opening up those endorphins. So again, we started with the self, so that we can find a gratitude practice to change our perspective. The health benefits, we remind ourselves that when we choose positive emotions, it impacts our sleep, it impacts our heart, it impacts our immune system. It's all of the above. So how do we take that to our relationship with others? Well, of course, you've all heard the saying, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. The Lisa Ryan addendum to that is, but if you can say something nice, do. Because there's, and the last couple of years, I still remember, May and June of 2020, we were all saying, I don't know anybody that's got this COVID thing. It can't be real. And yet, how many people can say that now? That probably everybody on the planet has lost somebody or knows somebody suffering from it. And the sad part about that is we don't know when the last time we see somebody, the last conversation that we have will be the last conversation. So we really want to look for ways to let the people in our lives know how much we appreciate them. For example, in some of my longer programs, I'll have people take out their phone and text. Think about somebody who needs to hear from you, just take a moment, send them a note. I'm thinking of you, love you, can't wait to see you, whatever. Click send, and then wait for the responses. So this one time I did that, and this woman came up to me at the break and she's like, I sent it to my husband and look what he responded. And it was like, oh, honey, I love you so much. I can't wait to see you later. It's going to be great. Thank you. And then I had a guy come up to me and he had sent it to his cousin, and his cousin was like, are you at one of those seminars doing an activity? So yeah, he got totally busted. But we look at like the Post-it note, probably one of the greatest appreciation tools that you can have. Years ago, I started leaving notes in my husband's lunch. And the first one on Post-it notes, the first one was, to the world's most amazing husband from the world's most fabulous wife, something along those lines. And Scott took a picture of it, put it on his wall in his cubicle, and texted it to me. And over those years, I mean, he's got lots and lots of those, to the point where, we just celebrated 26 years of marriage this year. And the joking line is, yeah, but how many of them were happy? And I'm like, all of them. And gratitude plays a big role in that, letting people know that you appreciate them, because when you tell them you appreciate them, you create a beautiful memory. But when you write it down, when you give them tangible evidence of a job well done, then you create a treasure. And then that purple book, that's probably one of my favorite books. It's called The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. There's also Dr. Paul White wrote a book called The 5 Languages of Appreciation in the Workplace. But the Cliff Notes version is that we all get our love tank filled in one of 5 ways, either words of affirmation, physical touch, acts of service, quality time, or gifts. And so we really want to find out how people like to be recognized. Because if you have somebody who's high acts of service and they're doing the dishes and taking the kids to their basketball practice and mowing the lawn and doing the laundry and all of these things, but they're with somebody whose love language is quality time, that person doesn't care as much about the acts of service. They want to sit on the couch and hold hands. In the workplace, it's the same thing, physical touch, not the same. But when we can find out, because in the workplace, you have people who like public recognition and others who abhor it. So we look at, some of the gifts that came out of COVID, out of these last 2 years. For me, it was a family Zoom where I think it was at the end of April 2020. I called my mother and I said, we should do family Zoom. And my mother's like, I'm not going to do any of that technology stuff. And instead of letting her off the hook and doing the FaceTime like we had done, I'm like, nope, we're doing Zoom. And so the first time it was me, my mom, and my stepsister. And then one of my sisters joined, and then my other sister, and then my brother would pop in. And then we opened it up to our international family. So on one, we've had up to 19 people on that call. And as you can see, we have people from time zones, including London, England, to Los Angeles, California, and everything in between. But the reason why that's so important is my family knows it used to be Wednesday nights. Now we're switching it to Thursday nights because my cousin Jen just went back to work. But Thursday nights at 7:30 and Saturdays at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, my family knows where I'm going to be. I actually schedule my life around family Zoom. And my aunt and uncle, who I talk to, I don't know, once or twice a year, I've talked to those people every week, twice for 2.5 years. So these are the things that we can do where we create the space. And at the beginning, it was all, we got each other through the pandemic and all the fear and everything that went around with, and now we just hang out. So, you just look for these ways to connect. I think that family Zoom is the best gift of COVID. So one of the gifts, this is the gift that I have for you. This is my very first book, The Upside of Down Times. And if you would like a copy of that, basically you can do it in one of 2 ways. You can either text the word engage to 66866, and it will ask you for your first name and your email address. And then I will get that out to you. Or you can send me an email to Lisa@Grategy. That is my very first book. And it really goes into the things that we talked about today with the chapters are self-help, others, and wealth. So if you want that.
Lisa, is your book digital?
Yeah, there's this one, if you do this, you're going to get the PDF of it.
Oh,
But
okay.
it's also on, all of my books are on Amazon and on Kindle. And like this one, the new one that just came out is Amazon and Kindle. I haven't done an audio version of it. All right, so we talked about self-help and relationship with others. And I'm just gonna, any questions, comments before we take it to the workplace?
Well, go ahead,
Okay,
Steve.
go ahead, Bill.
No, go ahead,
No,
Steve.
I was just going to ask if you have, maybe this is for the end of it. Do you have anything online? Like I assign my students in emotional intelligence homework for the next day, and I have them reading articles. And this, we do a lot on self-talk. In fact, that's tomorrow's class. And I would love to refer them if you have a YouTube or anything that they can.
Oh yeah, I have lots on YouTube. I have on LinkedIn, I post pretty regularly. My TV show is the Elite Expert Network. And I can send you the link to that. But
And
yeah,
the one that you think would be the most useful, something that wouldn't take maybe more than 30 minutes or something like that. If you have one that I would pass it on, put it in my bibliography and tell people about it. I could put your other works in my bibliography, but something I could assign them that they could actually look at, and then it would be
Well, if you want to, when you download the Upside of Down Times, go ahead and share that with them. You know, because there's,
Is that a YouTube thing?
oh, the YouTube, you know what? Actually, I have a YouTube video and I think I called it 8 Minutes of Gratitude. I'll have to find that, but it's 8 minutes long. And then it goes into kind of what we're talking about today too.
Okay. That would be great. Even this kind of presentation would be great for them to
Yeah.
listen to, and, you
Yeah,
know,
and it's recorded.
okay.
Right.
No, this is fantastic. And we just did a family thing ourselves last week, and we had, 13 people from all over the world, Ireland, Germany, California. So yeah, and that was really great. And I know they're going to do a lot more of those.
Yeah.
And when the pandemic started, put together a group of friends, and so there are 7 of us, and we were doing it weekly. As you said, now we do it every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But it's been fantastic, and everybody said it really helped them get through the pandemic,
Absolutely.
especially for the people who are alone.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then,
and especially
ahead.
when you have like one time, like your friends know that Tuesdays at 6 o'clock, you're going to be hanging out in the Zoom room.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
my family knows where to find me.
Yeah. And the last thing is, you've just motivated me, and I remembered that once I did a training it was a while back ago, and it was like a 3-day training. And what we ended up doing was taking a note on everybody in the class of what we appreciated about them. And then at the end, everybody, they passed around a card with everybody's name on it, and then people put their comments on it. I still have that card.
Yep. Yeah, I do that activity in my workshops. It's called the Appreciation Avalanche. And so what I do, and it's funny because I actually have, that's the ABCs of gratitude, but I have a piece of paper that they have what I like, admire, respect about. And I would put my name on the piece of paper and then I would turn it to Dan. And
Right.
Dan, and then you set the timer for like 45 seconds. Dan writes something about me, then it goes to Stevie, then it goes to Bill, and then it comes back to me. So the worst one that I did, I had 20 people and we did the whole program, usually doing 6 to 8 because then their hands aren't going to fall off. But yeah, the 20 people. But even though their hands were going to fall off by the time they were writing all of that stuff, 45 to 60 seconds and going on, they had tangible evidence from every single person that they worked with as far as what they liked. So Bill, and you're the poster child for it, because that's what I tell them all the time. Nobody's going to ever throw that away.
Yeah. So I'm going to do it. I have a 3-day coming up next week, and I'm going to do it. And I'm going to I want to say thanks, Lisa Ryan, for doing this.
You are very welcome. All right. Well, you know what? I know this is recorded, so we got started a little bit late. Is it okay if I go about 5 minutes after the hour, finish up?
It's okay with me.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Please.
Okay. All right. Because I do want to take it into the workplace, of course, and see. And again, that is the correct order. We look at ourselves first, then we feel better. Our relationships at home are better. And now we can take it into the workplace. But the gratitude strategies for that, the first thing in all of my programs, I'm starting with this disclaimer that it is not about the money. It is not about the money. People will say all the time, oh, they're just leaving because, they can go anywhere and make all kinds of money. It's like, no, they're not. That may be part of an incentive and your salaries are going to have to increase, but they're leaving you. They're leaving your culture. And if you have a great culture and they think, well, this company down the street just offered me a boatload more money, I'm going to go there. Then they find out that it's a horrible place to work. They're like, oh, that's why they have to bribe people to work there. But it is not about the money. When you get the culture right, that's what happens. We listen to people sincerely. When somebody comes into your office, take that phone and turn it upside down so you're not being distracted by it, because that's what we do. It's like we immediately start thinking that the person at the other end of that phone is going to be more important than the person right in front of me. That active listening, And there's lots of activities to do that. But the listening part comes from a point of genuinely caring and listening for the sake of listening, not to hear and to, so to answer, to respond. There's too many times that we listen to respond instead of getting to the heart of what's going on. So the number one thing, employees want to be heard. And even if you have a brand new employee and they come into your office, they've been there for 2 weeks and they're like, hey, I see some things that could really help us here. And you're like, you don't even know this industry and you're doing everything in your power not to have your eyeballs roll back in your head. Just listen to them because they see the world differently. And there may be a seed of an idea that you can use. Empathy, this is so important right now because you don't know what's going on with your employees. I mean, March 14th of 2020, I went to my dad's facility to pick up his laundry. He had a stroke in 2011. I kept him at home as long as I could, but in 2018, he could no longer live on his own. And so we moved into an assisted living facility, which he loved and he thrived. He had friends and did exercise every day and played bingo and just loved it. But March 14th, I went to pick up his laundry. That afternoon, I went to bring it back and they said, the facility's closed. And June 25th was my dad's birthday. And I said, we need to figure this out, that I'm going to hug my dad on his birthday. And I don't know how that's going to happen, but you're going to make it happen. So on his birthday, wearing a hazmat suit, surgical gloves, and an N95 mask, after all the other residents were finished with lunch and went back on their rooms, I got to hug my dad. And that was the last hug I had for about 8 months. And it's extraordinarily painful. And so I think that one of the things that the pandemic has done is it's made us a lot more human. But as we're getting back to life as normal, just that you don't always know what happened to that employee 5 minutes before they came in. Flexibility. I know if you're in manufacturing or if you're in retail, or there are certain jobs that people have to be there. They can't do it remote. But time is the thing that we all have the exact same amount of. And so looking for ways to give some of that back to your employees, because flexibility is an expectation now. It's not a nice to have. So maybe it's messing around with shifts. Hey, you can come in at 6:30, anytime between 6:30 and 8, and you can leave anytime between 3:30 and 5, or whatever it is that works for you. But just understanding that time is the greatest gift that you can give your people, and recognizing them for their accomplishments in the moment when it happened. People will be like, well, if we have this whole trophy generation and they're expecting to be thanked for everything they did. No, as long as it's sincere and specific, because if you just go up to people and like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, and it doesn't mean anything, you're right. It's not going to mean anything. But if you're specific and letting them know specifically what it is, instead of saying, hey, thanks, great job. Well, what was so great about it? Instead of saying, you know what, I really appreciate the fact that you stayed an hour overtime to help us get this order out. Customer really appreciated it, and so did I. Now, mind you, I might be thinking, why do I need to thank Joe for staying overtime? I mean, he's making time and a half. Why should I do that? Because I'm paying attention to Joe and letting him know that I'm catching him doing things well. And then maybe next time when I need him to kick in some overtime, he will do it willingly instead of saying, no, dude, I got a big date, I'm out of here. So we just look for ways to be sincere and be specific. So once again, if you didn't get it the first time, it's texting the word engage or sending me an email to get that book. And also I mentioned that I am on LinkedIn. So you can actually take your phone and go to that, pause the recording here. If you're watching the recording, get your phone out and scan that QR code. And that will give you the opportunity to connect with me on LinkedIn as well, because I put lots and lots of content there, videos and articles and everything else. So when you do all this, what does your new reality look like? Well, all those frowny faces, we're starting to see smiles. That frustration, we're starting to see calm. Those toxic people, we see relationships. The negative thoughts, we're able to turn those positive. The frustration, we're more, the worry, we're more calm. We feel that we're more on target to get our goals. The despair turns into celebration, and we get a good night's sleep, all of which are extremely important. So when you think about it, just think about one thing out of everything that we talked about today. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. What was the one thing that you're going to do as a result of our time together, or something that really stuck out to you as far as it being helpful and you looking to implement it? So who wants to talk to me and tell me what you got or what you're going to do?
Well, I felt reinforced that I'm already starting to do these things, but I'm definitely going to look for some video that I could have people look at in my classes, because that's the thing I really appreciate, is how I can move this forward,
Absolutely.
for others. So thank you.
If you would, send me an email to that Lisa at Grategy.
Okay. Is that the whole name, Lisa Ryan?
No, Lisa at Grategy. So it's right next to the Grategy.
Okay.
Go there.
Right.
And remind me, because that
thank you.
That
Okay.
makes it a lot easier, where I could just go find and I can put it right. And then I'll have your email and I can get that right out to you.
I wrote down the 8-minute one, but they can be longer than 8 minutes. Maybe a shortened version of what we.
And I have several. I mean, believe me.
Fantastic. I'll definitely, I'll sign it as homework. I definitely will.
Awesome. What about you, Bill?
Well, the other thing was, in letting go of the news at night, which again, I'm going to definitely do that. I'm going to add just another little twist, and I'm going to have my wife and I think about what we're grateful for each other at night, each night, as a way to end the day.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. And the funny thing is that with Scott, he's an accountant and he's not really into all of this self-development stuff that I'm at. But the fact that I did the gratitude journal, or I do the gratitude practice, I noticed the difference from him. I mean, we're always thanking each other for everything. And it's just a part, because when you take it on yourself to do those gratitudes, it changes your energy. But the people who do it together, the couples who do it, the parents who do it with their kids, it's relationship changing. It's such an enhancing thing to do.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Absolutely. And Dan, what about you?
Well, when I open that bottle of wine tonight, I'm going to remember to really appreciate it. I was just thinking about all the stressful things that are going on right now, and I was having trouble coming up with something because I'm keeping my head above water. So when I open that bottle of wine tonight, I'll remember that. Be extra appreciative of it.
Well, and you can be grateful for all of the antioxidants that will be flowing through your system.
Absolutely.
Right. It's a health food. It's a health food.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I could say in advance that the people who are going to watch this on a recording are really going to be grateful that you let us record it. So thank you so much for doing that.
You are very welcome.
Thank you, Lisa.
I just hope I can be grateful when I get on, that I do actually get on that plane on Sunday. Because they're canceling all these flights. That's what I was thinking about. Oh my goodness.
Praying to the travel gods. I
think, Lisa, you should know that despite there's not many people here today, everybody's grateful that Bill put this organization, or this networking, I call it a networking group, together, because he's been persistent and relentless and creative. And I'm grateful for that, Bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
I am too, Bill.
Thank you.
Grateful for Dan always showing up and always participating. And you've done a few sessions that have been very good.
Yeah. And he recommended Lisa. So, hey, I'm grateful for that.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm grateful you're here, Lisa. Thank you for coming.
Oh, you're very welcome.
the least I can do is show up. But you know, I've already seen yours this session, you know, that you
Right,
may
yeah.
have forgotten that, but I've already seen
Oh,
it.
yeah. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Dan was in my session when I was in Alexandria, and then we had a really nice dinner that night. So
Yeah.
Well, I'm definitely going to send
Good
you.
wine too.
I'm going to
Very
definitely
good
send you an
wine.
email. Get that book. I'm looking
Okay.
forward to it.
that sounds wonderful. Well, you guys have a great night.
Thank
You
you.
too. Thank you so much.
Take care,
Thank you.
everybody.
All
Have a
right,
good
bye-bye.
weekend. Bye-bye.